Today, we're going to be looking at the exact gym skills that carry straight over into your normal life. We're going to talk about why it matters and how to check your form even without a coach standing over your shoulder. Welcome back to the Ready for More podcast. Strength is for everybody. I'm Idi.
And I'm Marc.
Today, we're going to be talking about 3 movements you do in the gym that translate to your daily life.
We're also going to give you some audits that you can do to see how well you're performing any of these 3 movements.
Yeah, so today we're going to be starting with the ultimate lifesaver. What I think is the ultimate lifesaver. What do you think that is, Marc?
The deadlift, the hinge.
Yes, the hinge. In the gym, that's your deadlift, your RDLs, kettlebell swing, your hip thrust. These are the things we're talking about hinge-wise. But in real life, the hinge is something like picking up your kid, grabbing a heavy suitcase off the carousel in the airport, moving a couch without wrecking your back. It teaches you to load your hips and your glutes to protect your lower back.
I want you guys to think about this. How often have you heard that somebody bent over to pick something up and they hurt their lower back? They tweaked it. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hurt my lower back and now it's aching me as I walk.
Yeah, usually a lot of people, including myself, I remember when I was younger, I just hurt my back just doing a normal thing, just literally picking something off the floor. That shouldn't happen. Our body should be ready for anything you throw at it. So you don't need to necessarily brace. Your body needs to be ready for whatever life throws at it.
And, a point here about training a movement is that the more that you train a movement, the more when it's game time, real life, you'll execute it properly and you will not injure yourself. The more you practice something, the better you'll do it. So if you practice bending over at the hips and picking things up with good form, that's going to carry over when you're not thinking about it, picking up your grocery bags or your kids or something heavy off the ground.
Absolutely. So a line I want you guys to remember: if you hinge well, you can age well. If you hinge well, you can age well. I think it's the number one pattern that keeps people independent later in life. A lot of people, when you've had clients that ask you, why are we deadlifting? I always tell them we need to protect our lower back throughout life, because a lot of people, especially when you get up there in age, everybody has some sort of lower back pain, discomfort. And usually it is because they make the lower back do the majority of the work as opposed to the glutes and the hamstring. We see that all the time.
Yep. And look, let's face it, you're always going to need to pick something up off the ground. At any stage of life, you're going to drop a pen, you got to pick up your bat, whatever it is, you're always going to have to bend over to pick something up. So you may as well train your body, prime the movement so that you're always able to perform that motion.
So how do we check if we're hinging as opposed to squatting? Hips move back first. So the first thing that moves is your hips. So if your knees are the first one to bend, that is more of a squat. So I want you to picture yourself carrying some groceries and you want to close your car door. Think of closing the car door with your butt. So you're pushing your butt back. Think of that as a hinge.
Yeah, guys, the hinge starts at the hips, the squat starts at the knees. So wherever the most bending is happening, that's what defines the movement. The more bending at the hips, it's a hinge. The more bending at the knees, it's a squat.
Simple. That is number one. Single leg, double. We need to practice the hinge to protect our lower back. Marc, the second thing we're going to talk about is something most of us should do, especially in the gym, the carry. Something like a farmer's carry, which is 2 things in both hands, a suitcase carry, which is one-sided, a racked carry, a waiter's carry, that's overhead, a zerger's carry, which is something in front of you. So these are the carries I like to do. So you just pick something up heavy and you just walk.
Yeah, and to think about the carryover for real life, this goes hand in hand with what we talked about for the first movement. Once you pick something up, you got to walk with it. But also this trains your core to work dynamically under load. So in the gym, it's very common that you just work in one plane or in one place. Just you're fixed there and you're managing the weight. But in real life, you have to move with your load. So this is a great way of training your body to be able to do that. As you are able to do heavier carries, your core adjusts dynamically, and that will carry over to real life when you have to carry things, your bags to the airport, your kid for whatever reason, anything, your core has already been trained to carry loads and to adjust.
I think it's the closest thing to actually training for real life, just carrying anything. Just think about it, just hauling a grocery bag outside the supermarket. So you have a bunch of bags and then you just walk into your car across the the parking lot, crossing a crowded airport with a heavy duffel bag. So you have the duffel bag on one side and you kind of leaning, and then your core is forced to stabilize you to keep straight. It does a couple of things. It builds your grip, it builds your core, and builds your posture and your stability. It does all that at once.
Yeah, I like that. This is your training for real life exercise.
So when we do it in the gym, and I see a lot of people trying to do it, one of the biggest mistakes we see is letting the weight dictate your posture. I know you want to lift heavy and eventually you want to go a little heavier, but if you're leaning forward so much, it is a bit too heavy, or you could barely do 15, 20 seconds. Ultimately, I like to build up to like 1 minute and then we up in weight. I want you to think of walking through a narrow hallway and you have a hot cup of coffee on your head. That is what I want you to think of. So, and you're walking through that hallway without touching any of the walls. And if you build that up to 1 minute.
The two most common carries that you're going to do in the gym are either the farmer's carry or the rack carry. So here's a really simple way to know if you're doing too much or you're asking too much from yourself with either one of these. If you're in the rack carry and you're leaning back and your pelvis is forward, you're going too heavy, you're asking yourself too much. If you're doing a farmer's carry and you're starting to bend forward and your shoulders are dumped down, then you're going too heavy as well. So just remember that. If you're leaning back, bumped my head. Ouch. If you're leaning back in the rack carry, it's too heavy. If you're falling forward in the farmer's carry, that's too heavy. And scale back a little.
Yeah, and you know what I love about it? It is self-correcting. There's literally no teaching. You just pick it up, just walk. It is just self-correcting.
But one fine point. So do you remember when we used to do this at Equinox? It would be in a long hallway with tile floors, and management would get so upset when people would just rock the weight on the floor at the end because it would damage the tiles. So they were onto something here, because manage the weight the whole way through. Don't just get to the end of whatever you got to carry and then just collapse with the weight. Try to place it down on the ground with control, because injuries can happen acutely. You can be in control for 90% of it. You can abandon control, drop the weight, and all of a sudden something happens. So the same way you pick it up and manage it with control, put the weight down with control.
The tiles were kind of a good thing, because I always told my clients, please do not crack the tiles. So it forced them to actually control the weight.
Yeah, I don't want to get yelled at by management, but moreover, it carries over very well into how, pun intended, into how you want to manage weight.
I think that's one of the best bangs for your buck. Just carrying heavy stuff. You're going to get so many benefits out of that, including grip strength, which is correlated to longevity. I also use it for conditioning as well. We could get into that a little later.
All right. Now, our third and final movement for real life and longevity carryover, Idi.
The third one is the squat. Some version of a squat every day. In the gym, that looks like a goblet squat. It could be a barbell back squat. It could be a Zergus squat. And if you go single leg, it could look something like a step up. These are different variations you would see in the gym. I think squatting is the foundation of mobility. What do you think about that?
I think there's definitely something to it. I think that the better you can squat with better control, the more you're going to preserve your ability to move, to climb things, go up and down stairs, to jump, to walk. Look, for me, let's start with an even lower hanging fruit. One thing that I think that people forego without even realizing it is their ability to sit down and stand up. How often do you see people, they want to sit into a chair and then they plop down into the chair, right? They have control over a certain amount of the range, and then boom, they just collapse into the seat. Squat preserves your ability. I mean, sometimes it's out of laziness that they do this, but laziness eventually becomes their actual ability. So squatting with control up and down preserves your ability to control sitting down all the way and standing up all the way, as opposed to I control it half, plop down, and then I have to use momentum to get myself out of my seat.
Yeah, if you could squat well at 40, 50, 60 plus, you stay capable and confident.
I kid you not, I already know people that have trouble in my personal life sitting down and standing up. They try to make their way down to a chair, they collapse in, and then it becomes an effort with momentum to launch themselves back out of the chair. That should not be the case. Squatting will help prevent that.
Yeah, I mean, you might think squats are just getting big legs. Really, they protect your ability to move your own weight gracefully, just like you were talking about. A lot of people get up, and when they have to go back down, they're just flopping. And it's mainly because they're not strong enough, they're not confident enough, and they just want to get it over with. The fix and the self-check. So you ask yourself, can you control the descent, which is the sitting down? The next time you sit down, I don't want you to flop. If you want to challenge yourself, think of the chair being a scale, and you want to put 50% of your weight. So all I want you to do on the descent, the last 6 inches, I want you to slow down and then sit down. Challenge yourself, slow down. The chair is a scale, 50% of the weight on the scale, and then I want you to stand up 3 to 4 times.
And yeah, for those of you that are already squatting, this is something you can do with weight. You can do it with the kettlebell. I probably wouldn't recommend doing it with the barbell, but you can do it with the kettlebell. And I guess you could do it with the barbell. And then the idea is you can probably explore more depth, right? You can let your butt gently plant on a riser or stability ball, whatever it is, and then make your way back up. So if you're trying to explore more mobility, this is not a drill just for people that are trying to explore squats for the first time or gain mastery over it. You can use it to up your game with your actual weighted squat.
All right, so let's bring this all together. You don't need 50 complex exercises. You need just the essentials. So for now, the hinge, the carry, and the squat. There is push and pull, but we're going to talk about that in a later segment. I want you to master these 3.
And here's what I'd add to it. There are other movements, specifically upper body movements that we did not cover today that are part of global body movements. However, these 3 exercises we singled out as they will not only carry over into real life, but they will promote your independence and longevity. And when I say independence, everybody knows somebody who is losing independence as they get older, right? They need people to care for them. They're moving less well. If you start practicing these moves now, it will carry over a long way into guaranteeing your independence in your golden years. All right, guys, so here it is. The plug for our strength audit for the day. This is a perfect time for you to click on the link below and find out where you are on your fitness journey. Idi and I put together a questionnaire to help you figure out where you are fitness-wise and how to chart a better plan forward to get where you want to go. So it doesn't take long. Yeah. So click on the link, take the audit, and let's have a chat.
All right, guys, strength is for everybody. See you next week.
Stay strong.